the rest of the media ends. On today's program, we're going to talk about people wearing masks. Well, I got news for you folks. It's actually bad for your health. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to explain it all to you, okay? And then, how many deaths have there really truly been from the coronavirus? Well, I've got some interesting information that will point to the fact that these numbers are grossly overstated. And number three, we're going to talk about a new axis of evil. That is Iran, that is Venezuela, and Cuba. I've got an interesting story that possibly could make the news in the next couple of weeks if things are heating up, as I think they could be. And then, yet another professor has been arrested, this time from another university, not Harvard, another university, and more ties to the Communist Chinese Party. And then, we're finally realizing that the Chinese Communist Party has been infiltrating Hollywood and has been infiltrating our media and has been infiltrating our universities and research centers through their Confucius Institute programs and Thousand Talent programs. But there's another country out there that people are not paying attention to that are becoming just as dangerous.
People
we'll break that down
to wear masks
as well.
For
now,
10 hours
let's
a day
get into segment number one.
Back to the show.
One thing I will tell you, and you can see based on the title, is that this video could definitely be removed from YouTube because
it will be.
It's not going to comply with the Chinese compliant Wuhan Health Organization, Center for Disinformation Control, and the National Institute of Bad Health, and their basic recommendations and guidelines for dealing with anything having to do with any type of opposing viewpoint on the official narrative of coronavirus and COVID-19. So knowing that that could be a possibility, this video will be on my Roku TV channel on cable. It will definitely be there as well. Now, if it does, in fact, get pulled from my YouTube channel, which again is a possibility, I don't know. If it does,
it will.
I do have a BitChute account. I do not use it very often. The only time I even put a video on it is if a video is taken down. So if it happens, I will put it up on the BitChute account, but I have zero inclination to continue to put lots of videos on BitChute. It's not a site that I am considering as a backup. My Roku TV channel and, of course, Patreon are my two main hubs, other than, of course, here on YouTube. In China and other parts of Asia, and for that matter, around the world, medical masks are pretty much a practice, a common thing that, the folks use. And that's mainly due to pollution, air quality, and, of course, population. But this is the United States of America. We're not China, folks, okay?
Yep.
And for the psychological reasons alone, never mind the health reasons, that is one reason why I will never comply to having to wear any type of mask. I understand that many of my supporters and viewers of my program are stuck, unfortunately, in blue, liberal, tyrannical states run by governors that are using this pandemic as an opportunity to rule over everybody in a tyrannical way. And I understand that there are many of you stuck in that situation, and I'm sorry that you are. And yes, you have to have a mask on to go to your bank or go to your restaurant or go to your grocery store. I get it. It sucks that you have to deal with that. No, the federal government is looking into it and is trying to crack down on that. And these things cannot last forever. But when you are not in a public establishment such as a restaurant or supermarket or what have you, you should not be wearing a mask over your face. According to nationally recognized health expert and board-certified neurosurgeon Dr. Russell Blaylock, if healthy Americans continue in a prolonged way to wear medical masks, there is one certain common outcome that will occur. You will become no longer a healthy American, and indeed you will become a sick American.
Yep.
In the current pandemic, as I like to call it, we are living through
really
very interesting times, to say the least. We've seen a number of medical, quote, experts out there from the so-called Wuhan Health Organization and the recommendations from the Center for Disease Control, and of course the National Institute of Health, NIAID, and even our own federal government. They have all said that we should now, all of a sudden, all of us pretty much wear masks. But they're basing this on little to absolutely no scientific proof and evidence in regards to reducing the spread of this virus. Why? Because all of the past reports and studies have not been based on the coronavirus. Instead, they've been based on influenza outbreaks. That's another reason why these models are so wrong. So that means that every single study that the Wuhan Health Organization and the Center for Deception Control and the NIH is solely based on reports and studies from influenza. Now, this is a somewhat unusual virus, I will say that, and to the vast majority of people, you could be asymptomatic. You could have no symptoms at all, or you could have very little symptoms. And only a very small percentage of folks, typically those with pre-existing health conditions and those that are more older and elderly, will have any serious implications from this virus. Those with pre-existing respiratory illnesses such as asthma, lung issues, or COPD are pretty much putting their lives on the line every single time they put on a medical mask. According to Dr. Antonio Lazzarino, board-certified epidemiologist, people with breathing issues such as COPD, wearing a mask could become fatal. Now, the reason is because it already worsens a person's ability to gain oxygen into their lungs. That's what these lung issues already do. They deplete the oxygen level in people's bodies. So by wearing a mask, you're already cutting that even worse. So if you do have those types of diseases or COPD and things like that, certainly consult your doctor before ever taking the recommendations of our government or anyone else and putting on one of these masks. Now, those that suffer from the COPD and asthma will experience lightheadedness, fatigue, possible loss of consciousness,
coma.
And here's what's even worse, wearing the masks will make them more susceptible to infections, especially those that are airborne. Wearing a mask forces the same exhaled and inhaled air back into your lungs, possibly causing a virus that normally would not have been there, because when you are breathing in and out, you have an opportunity to push out bad germs and particles. But when you have it where you're breathing into your mask all the time, you're keeping it locked in to your body. Now, this can also reach through into your navel cavity, thus potentially entering the olfactory nerves, and even, God forbid, traveling into your brain and giving you a virus in your brain. Moreover, a careful examination of 17 recent studies concluded that there was no conclusive evidence or relationship between wearing a face mask and the rate of influenza infection. Again, there's nothing for COVID. So keep that in mind. There's been zero studies done to demonstrate the effectiveness of wearing a face mask in relation to the infection rate of COVID-19. Paradoxically, that just until recently, folks, the CDC guidelines, remember, did not recommend wearing a face mask unless a person was known to be infected. So, now that we have completely established the fact that there is absolutely no scientific evidence proving the effectiveness of preventing COVID-19 by wearing a mask, let's dive into some of the health risks associated with prolonged use of medical face masks. Several studies have found that prolonged use of wearing a face mask can cause headaches, dizziness, fainting, and yes, even infections. Two potentially dangerous side effects of prolonged mask use are hypoxia, which is a reduction in blood oxygenation, which can lead to faintness, dizziness, headaches, or even loss of consciousness.
Hypercapnia.
The other one is known as hypercapnia or hypercapnia, which is an elevation
of your CO2.
In blood carbon dioxide, which causes CO2. Severe headaches and dizziness as well. And if you needed any more proof of this information, a drop in oxygen levels, hypoxia, is associated with immunity impairment. So, what does that mean? You drop your oxygen level, your body and your immune system suffers from it, and therefore you can be more susceptible to catching a virus. Studies have shown that hypoxia can inhibit immune cells used to fight viral infections called CD4 plus T lymphocyte.
Now
this occurs because the drop of oxygen level increases the inducible factor HIF-1, which in turn inhibits T lymphocytes and stimulates a powerful immune inhibitor cell called TREGS, T-R-E-G-S.
You are mistaken.
By triggering these particular immune inhibitors, it lowers the body's overall immune system, thus making it even easier to contract viruses such as COVID-19. But hey, don't take my word for it, okay? I'm no infectious disease specialist. I don't work for the government, okay? I'm not even an expert on this stuff, okay? It's just meticulous research of hours and hours of research to put together the opposite opposing view of what the liars are telling you. But hey, you know what? Listen to this guy. Go ahead and roll this clip.
United States. People should not be walking around with masks. You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this. Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask, and they keep touching their face. And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there? Of course. But when you think masks, you should think of healthcare providers needing them and people who are ill.
All I can say, folks, is be educated. Do not jump at the fact that the government is telling you to wear a mask, okay? Could it be usable?
All right, guys. That's the show from our favorite bald badass, Josh Bernstein. And stop.